Right now, somewhere in the world, a person over 50 is being told they have cancer. And here is the part that breaks my heart every single time. In a significant number of those cases, we had the tools to prevent it, not manage it, not treat it, prevent it, and nobody ever told them what those tools were. If you are over 50 or you love someone who is, do not click away from this video. What I am going to share with you in the next 20 minutes could be the most important health information you have ever heard, and I do not say that lightly. Before I tell you what those tools are, I need to tell you about something hiding inside your body right now. A process that, if left unchecked, makes every single one of us more vulnerable to cancer with every passing year after 50. And the terrifying part? Most people have never even heard of it. But here is the good news, and I promise you this is real. Researchers at one of the most respected institutions in the world followed over 135,000 adults for 2 full decades and discovered something extraordinary. People who practiced a specific cluster of daily habits reduced their overall cancer risk by up to 61%. 61%. That is not a minor improvement. That is the difference between a cancer diagnosis and living to see your grandchildren grow up. My name is Dr. Clara Smith. I have been practicing oncology and cancer prevention medicine for over 20 years. I have sat across from thousands of patients, looked them in the eyes, and had the hardest conversations a doctor ever has to have. But I have also watched people change. I have watched people take information like what you are about to hear and transform their biology so dramatically that their test results stopped looking like the results of someone their age. That transformation is what this video is about. And the habit I am going to share with you last, the one I saved for the end, is the single most powerful, zero-cost cancer prevention tool I have ever encountered in 2 decades of clinical practice. Please stay with me all the way through. Every piece of this builds on the last. Let us start with habit number 5, and I want you to pay close attention here because what I am about to explain is something most people have been getting wrong their entire lives without ever knowing it. Inside every one of your cells, there is a process happening right now called DNA mismatch repair. Think of it like a tiny proofreader sitting inside each cell, scanning your genetic code every single time a cell divides, looking for errors, catching them before they become mutations, before mutations become something dangerous. In a healthy body, this proofreader is sharp. It catches mistakes, it corrects them, it keeps you safe. But here is the problem. After the age of 50, the efficiency of your DNA repair enzymes, those little proofreaders, declines by roughly 30 to 40%. Your body becomes a less reliable editor at exactly the moment when decades of cellular wear have left the most errors piling up. That combination is dangerous enough on its own, but what makes it far worse is what most of us are eating every single day: ultra-processed foods. I am talking about the packaged crackers, the deli meat wrapped in plastic, the sugary drinks, the fast food, the processed snack bars that line the middle aisles of every grocery store. These foods flood your cells with compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. And these compounds do not just make you gain weight, they directly impair those same repair enzymes that are already struggling after 50. They make your body's proofreader even slower, even less accurate, at a time when you can least afford it. A 2023 study out of Imperial College London followed nearly 200,000 adults and found that people whose diets were highest in ultra-processed foods had a 32% higher risk of colorectal cancer and a 19% higher risk of breast cancer compared to those eating primarily whole foods. That same year, researchers at the National Cancer Institute confirmed that ultra-processed food consumption was independently linked to a 28% increase in overall cancer mortality. And here is the part that I want you to really hear. That increased risk was not just because of the weight these foods cause people to gain. The food itself, independent of obesity, was the problem. I had a patient I will call Sandra. She was 58 years old, an office administrator from California, and she came to me after her sister was diagnosed with colon cancer. Sandra was frightened. She wanted to know if she could lower her risk. When I looked at her diet, it looked like what most people would call completely normal. Cereal in the morning, a deli sandwich at lunch, packaged crackers and processed cheese in the afternoon. Nothing outrageous by the standards most of us have grown up with. But when I ran her inflammatory markers, specifically her C-reactive protein and her interleukin-6 levels, both were significantly elevated. Her body was quietly on fire in a way she could not feel, but her cells absolutely could. Over the next 12 months, Sandra made one simple change. She replaced her ultra-processed staples with whole food alternatives. Not all at once, just one swap per meal. Morning cereal became oatmeal with fresh berries. Her packaged snack bar became an apple and a handful of walnuts. Her deli meat became grilled chicken or a hard-boiled egg. She did not go on a diet. She did not count calories. She just stopped feeding her cells the compounds that were actively damaging them. 12 months later, her C-reactive protein had dropped by 44%. Her interleukin-6 had normalized completely, and her follow-up colonoscopy showed a full reversal of the low-grade mucosal inflammation her gastroenterologist had flagged at her previous scope. Her doctor called it impressive. I called it the power of understanding what is actually happening inside your body. For you, this means one concrete shift starting today. Replace one ultra-processed item in each meal with a whole food equivalent. Just one. Your body will start to notice within days. And when you combine this with habit number 4, which I am about to explain, the effect on your systemic inflammation is not just additive. Research shows it is compounding in a way that neither habit achieves alone. Habit number 4 is one that most people think they understand, but almost nobody is using with their cancer risk in mind. When I talk to my patients about sleep, most of them nod along and say yes, they know sleep is important. They feel tired when they do not get enough. But what they do not know is that while they are sleeping, their bodies are running one of the most powerful cancer surveillance operations in all of human biology, and it shuts down almost completely when sleep is compromised. Your immune system contains specialized cells called natural killer cells, NK cells. Their job is to patrol your bloodstream and your tissues around the clock, identifying cells that have gone wrong, cells that are beginning the process of becoming cancerous, and eliminating them before they can establish themselves. Think of them as your body's internal security force. They are extraordinary. And here is the thing that most doctors never take the time to explain. NK cell activity is almost entirely regulated by your sleep cycles, specifically by the deep, slow-wave sleep stages that happen in the early part of your night. It is during those deep stages that your body releases the cascade of proteins that amplify NK cell production and activation. When your sleep is short, fragmented, or shallow, that entire process degrades. Your security force goes offline. After age 60, the proportion of slow-wave sleep your body naturally generates drops by approximately 50% on its own. And if you are sleeping fewer than 6 hours a night on top of that, the consequences are severe. A 2019 study from the University of Chicago showed that just 1 week of sleeping fewer than 6 hours per night reduced natural killer cell activity by 70% in healthy adults. 70% in 1 week. A separate analysis from the International Agency for Research on Cancer, which reviewed data from 27 studies and over 2 million participants, found that chronic short sleep was associated with a 40% increased risk of breast cancer, a 36% increased risk of prostate cancer, and a 55% increased risk of colorectal cancer in adults over 55. I want to tell you about Robert, 63 years old, retired engineer, someone who genuinely prided himself on needing less sleep than most people. He came to see me after a precancerous polyp was found during a routine colonoscopy. Robert was not overweight, he did not smoke, he exercised regularly, he ate well, but he was sleeping 5 to 6 hours most nights, and his sleep was fragmented and light. When I looked at his NK cell count, it was among the lowest I had seen in a non-smoking, otherwise healthy adult. His body's security force was running at a fraction of its intended capacity. We built a sleep protocol together, a consistent 10:30 bedtime, complete darkness and no screens after 9 p.m., a bedroom temperature of 67 degrees Fahrenheit, and a magnesium glycinate supplement to support deeper sleep stages. Within 8 weeks, he was sleeping 7.5 hours, and his deep sleep had measurably doubled. Within 12 months, his NK cell count had increased by 38%. His oncologist at his next follow-up said the difference in his blood work was striking. For you, the most powerful starting point is something sleep researchers call anchor sleep. Commit to the same wake time every single morning, even on weekends. Your wake time anchors your circadian rhythm more powerfully than your bedtime does. Set that alarm. Hold it. Even 1 week of consistent wake timing measurably improves sleep architecture in adults over 50. And when this habit works together with the dietary changes from habit 5, your body's inflammatory baseline drops to a level where your NK cells can do the job they were designed to do. Habit number 3 is one that I want to reframe for you completely before I explain it, because the word exercise makes most people over 50 tune out, and I understand why. We have been told for decades that the answer is to run, go to the gym, do something hard. That is not what I am describing. What I am talking about is purposeful daily movement, and its effects on cancer biology are so specific and so well documented that I believe more people need to understand them at a cellular level. At the center of this habit is a hormone called insulin-like growth factor 1, or IGF-1. IGF-1 promotes cell growth. In youth, that is a good thing. It drives healthy development. But after 50, when chronically elevated, IGF-1 acts almost like a fertilizer for cells that have gone wrong. It accelerates their growth, their proliferation. And sedentary behavior, prolonged sitting, a lifestyle with very little movement, directly drives IGF-1 levels up. At the same time, regular, moderate movement is one of the only lifestyle interventions proven to lower IGF-1 and simultaneously increase the activity of a tumor-suppressing protein called P53. P53 is your cell's most powerful internal stop signal. When it is working well, it tells damaged or abnormal cells to stop dividing and self-destruct. When it is suppressed, those cells keep multiplying. A 2020 study from the American Cancer Society tracked 186,000 adults over 10 years. People who engaged in at least 150 minutes of moderate movement per week had a 42% lower risk of colon cancer, a 38% lower risk of breast cancer recurrence, and a 26% lower risk of dying from cancer overall. And a companion study from the University of Queensland found something even more accessible. Simply breaking up prolonged sitting with 5-minute walks every hour reduced markers of tumor-promoting inflammation by 27%. No gym, no equipment, just getting up and moving briefly, consistently. Eleanor was 71 years old when she came to me. She had survived stage 1 breast cancer and was terrified of it coming back. She had arthritis and could not run. She could not do the kind of intense workouts that fitness culture often sells as the only real option. So we built her a movement plan around what she could do. A 20-minute walk after breakfast. Standing while watching television in the evening. a 5-minute stretch and walk break every hour during her afternoons. That was it. 12 months later, her IGF-1 levels had dropped by 23%. Her oncologist noted significantly improved NK cell counts, and Eleanor told me she felt like herself again for the first time in years. Your starting point is a 20-minute walk after your largest meal of the day. Research from Stanford, published in 2021, confirmed that post-meal walking specifically suppresses the blood sugar spikes that independently feed cancer cell metabolism by up to 33%. You do not need anything except your own 2 feet and a consistent decision to use them. Before I move to habit number 2, I want to pause and ask you something directly. I put months of research into every video I make here, and this channel is my way of reaching people who deserve to have this information. If what we are covering today is giving you something real, please take a moment to subscribe, hit the like button, and share this with someone over 50 who you care about. It genuinely matters. Now, habit number 2. And I want to warn you, when I bring this one up with my patients, the most common response I get is, "Oh, stress. I know about stress." And then they move on. Please do not do that here. What I am about to explain is not about feeling overwhelmed or burned out. It is about a specific biological mechanism that is silently suppressing your body's ability to fight cancer. And it is something that millions of people over 50 are experiencing without even knowing it. The molecule at the center of this habit is cortisol, your primary stress hormone. Short bursts of cortisol are healthy. They are your body's emergency response system. But when cortisol is chronically elevated, as it is in people experiencing persistent anxiety, grief, loneliness, ongoing conflict, or unresolved emotional stress, it triggers a cascade of consequences that go deep into your cancer biology. Cortisol suppresses the expression of BRCA1 and BRCA2. These are your 2 most critical DNA damage repair genes. When cortisol keeps them suppressed, the errors that accumulate in your DNA do not get caught and corrected. But it goes further than that. Chronic cortisol also activates an inflammatory pathway called NF-kappa B, which directly promotes tumor cell survival and blocks apoptosis. Apoptosis is the natural process by which your body recognizes damaged or abnormal cells and triggers them to self-destruct. It is one of your most important built-in defenses against cancer. And chronic psychological stress tells your body to keep damaged cells alive instead of destroying them. A 2022 study from Ohio State University's Comprehensive Cancer Center found that chronic psychological stress reduced the activity of tumor-infiltrating lymphocytes, the immune cells responsible for attacking cancer, by 48% in adults over 60. A 2023 meta-analysis from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, drawing on data from nearly 500,000 participants, found that adults with clinically elevated chronic stress markers had a 43% higher risk of developing blood cancers, including leukemia and lymphoma, and a 31% higher risk of lung cancer compared to low-stress controls. David was 66 years old, a recently retired executive who came to me describing himself as finally relaxed. But his lab work told a completely different story. His cortisol rhythm was inverted, low in the morning when it should be at its highest, and elevated at night when it should be near zero. He had what researchers call allostatic load, a state where years of biological stress have been so deeply imprinted that the body cannot recalibrate even when the perceived stress is gone. His BRCA1 expression was measurably suppressed. Externally, David looked fine. Internally, his cancer defenses were quietly crumbling. We built a daily regulation protocol around him, 12 minutes of slow, diaphragmatic breathing each morning, using a rhythm where he breathed in for 4 counts, held for 7, and released for 8. A 15-minute evening walk with no phone, and a commitment to weekly social connection, a regular dinner with friends that he had been letting slip since retirement. 6 months later, his cortisol rhythm had normalized. His NF-kappa B markers had dropped by 31%. His lymphocyte counts had measurably improved. He told me he had not felt that clear in 10 years. A 2021 study from Carnegie Mellon University found that just 12 minutes of daily mindful breathing, practiced consistently for 8 weeks, reduced cortisol levels by 26% and measurably improved NK cell activity in adults over 55. You do not need a therapist or an app or a retreat. You need a quiet chair and 12 minutes. 4 counts in through your nose, hold for 7, 8 counts out through your mouth. That is your starting point, and when you combine this practice with the sleep protocol from Habit 4, your body's ability to run deep, restorative sleep cycles improves dramatically, because elevated cortisol is one of the primary suppressors of the slow-wave sleep stages we talked about earlier. Everything we have covered so far, the food, the sleep, the movement, the stress, all of it is foundational. All of it matters deeply. But habit number 1 is what ties every single mechanism we have discussed into a unified biological strategy. And the research behind it is so compelling that I have to be honest with you. It changed the way I practice medicine. It became the cornerstone of what I recommend to every high-risk patient I see, regardless of age, weight, or genetics. The mechanism at the heart of habit number 1 is a cellular process called autophagy. The word comes from Greek and it means self-eating. I know that sounds strange, but stay with me. When your body enters a fasted state, typically somewhere between 13 and 16 hours after your last meal, it flips a biological switch. Your cells begin to identify, dismantle, and recycle their own damaged components, defective proteins, dysfunctional mitochondria, pre-malignant cells that are beginning to go wrong. Your body essentially runs a deep internal diagnostic and cleanup cycle. It scours itself for cellular debris and eliminates it before that debris can accumulate into something dangerous. In healthy younger adults, this cycle runs reasonably on its own. But after 50, autophagy efficiency declines sharply, by an estimated 40 to 50%. And the reason most adults over 50 never trigger robust autophagy is not age alone. It is eating patterns. In modern life, with food available from the moment we wake to the moment we go to bed, most people never enter a fasted state long enough for their bodies to begin this cleanup process. They are eating across windows of 15, 16, even 17 hours a day. The cleanup cycle never fully starts, and damaged cells accumulate, day after day, year after year. That accumulated cellular damage is the biological foundation of cancer. A 2019 study from the University of Southern California, published in Cell Metabolism, found that adults who restricted their eating to a consistent 10-hour window each day for 12 weeks showed a 34% reduction in IGF-1, a 29% reduction in inflammatory markers, and a measurable upregulation of autophagy activity. No caloric restriction was required, no special foods, just a consistent eating window. A landmark 2022 clinical trial from the University of Alabama at Birmingham, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, followed 218 adults between 55 and 70. Those practicing a consistent 14-10 eating pattern, eating within 10 hours and fasting for 14, showed a 37% reduction in markers of oxidative DNA damage and a 41% improvement in tumor suppressor gene expression. Again, no caloric restriction, no specific diet required, just the timing. I want to tell you about Michael. He was 61 years old, a school teacher, when he came to me with a history of precancerous colonic polyps, a family history of pancreatic cancer, and a fasting glucose level sitting at the edge of the pre-diabetic range. Michael was not overweight. He ate what most people would consider a sensible diet, but his eating window was 16 hours long, a coffee with cream at 6 in the morning, a late snack at 10 at night. His autophagy markers were among the lowest I had measured in a non-obese patient his age. His cells were not being cleaned up. They were accumulating damage. We implemented a simple change together. His first meal at 8 in the morning. His last bite of food by 6 in the evening. Water and plain black coffee freely throughout the fasting period. No calorie counting, no eliminating any particular food group, just a window. Within 90 days, his fasting glucose had dropped from 108 to 91, out of the pre-diabetic range entirely. Within 12 months, his follow-up colonoscopy showed complete resolution of the low-grade dysplasia that had been documented in his previous 2 scopes. His gastroenterologist described the finding as unusual and remarkable. His autophagy biomarkers, measured through a research panel, had increased by 53%. Here is what I want you to understand about why this habit is the one I call the master lever. Time-restricted eating amplifies every other habit we have discussed. It lowers IGF-1, the same molecule that targeted movement brings down. It reduces cortisol rhythm disruption, which means it supports the stress regulation from habit 2. It increases the depth and efficiency of slow-wave sleep. It reduces systemic inflammation even when your diet is not perfect. Pull this lever and everything else in this video becomes more powerful. Implementing it is simpler than most people expect. You do not skip meals. You do not go hungry. You establish a window of 10 to 12 hours and you protect it. If your first cup of black coffee is at 7 in the morning, your eating window closes at 7 in the evening. If breakfast is at 8, your last meal finishes by 6. Nothing but water, plain black coffee, or unsweetened tea outside that window. That is the protocol. Your body does the rest. Before I bring everything together, I want to ask you something. Of the 5 habits we have covered today, which one do you feel is the hardest for you personally right now? Leave a comment below and tell me. Habit 1, the eating window? Habit 2, the stress practice? Habit 3, the daily movement? Habit 4, the sleep? Or Habit 5, cutting out the ultra-processed foods? Write it out. Tell me what is standing in your way. I read every comment, and what you share genuinely shapes the content I make next. Now let me come back to Michael for a moment, because his story did not end with that colonoscopy. 18 months after we started working together, Michael came back for a full metabolic panel. His IGF-1 had dropped another 12% beyond what we had measured at the 12-month mark. His inflammatory markers were, in his own doctor's words, those of someone 15 years younger. But more than the numbers, what Michael said to me that day is something I think about often. He said, "I feel like I got my future back." He had walked into my office terrified. He had a family history that weighed on him every single day. And step by step, habit by habit, he had shifted the conditions inside his body so dramatically that his biology no longer reflected that fear. That is what this information can do. Not for everyone in the same way, not with guarantees, but with real, documented, measurable possibility. So let me bring it all together for you clearly, because what we have covered today is not a collection of separate tips. It is one integrated biological strategy with each part supporting the others. Habit 5. Reducing ultra-processed foods removes one of the primary suppressors of your DNA repair machinery, the cellular proofreading system that loses 30 to 40% of its efficiency after 50. When that proofreader is protected, errors get caught before they become mutations. Habit 4, optimizing your sleep, restores natural killer cell activity, your body's primary internal defense against early-stage cancer cells. That defense drops by up to 70% with chronic short sleep. When sleep is protected, the security force comes back online. Habit 3, daily purposeful movement, directly lowers IGF-1, the hormone that fertilizes cancer cell growth, while upregulating p53, the tumor suppressor that tells abnormal cells to stop. You do not need a gym. You need consistent, gentle, daily movement. Habit 2. Daily stress regulation. Normalizes the cortisol rhythm that is suppressing your two most critical DNA repair genes and keeping damaged cells alive longer than they should be. 12 minutes of breathing practice is your minimum effective dose. And habit 1, time-restricted eating, activates autophagy, the cellular cleanup system that is your body's deepest and most fundamental cancer prevention mechanism, and it amplifies the effect of every other habit on this list. I want to say something to you directly as your doctor in this moment. It is never too late. The research I have shared with you today was not conducted on 30-year-olds with perfect genetics. It was conducted on people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who made targeted lifestyle changes and produced measurable, documented biological improvements. Your cells are not fixed. Your risk is not sealed. Every morning you wake up is another opportunity to shift the conditions inside your body in a direction that makes cancer less likely. That is not hope. That is science. If this video gave you something valuable today, I would genuinely love it if you took a moment to hit the like button, subscribe to this channel so you never miss what I put out next, and share this video with one person over 50 who deserves to have this information. The number of people who walk into oncology offices every year without ever having heard any of this is something I think about constantly. You sharing this video is one small way that changes. And one final thought. Of these 5 habits, which one will you start this week? Not eventually, this week. Leave that in the comments. Let me know. I will be there reading. Take care of yourself, because the evidence is very clear that you absolutely can.